Bonsoir madame, bonsoir mademoiselle. Bienvenue sur Afrique Today dans l'émission d'équipe du dimanche présentée par Coach Fofo. Cette émission qui est présentée tous les dimanches à partir de 4h, 4h30 sur Afrique Today. Vous pouvez nous regarder sur le Facebook, le Twitter, le Instagram et le www.afriquetoday.com. Vous pouvez aussi nous regarder sur Roku, Five et Amazon et les autres et notre digital app afriquetoday.com. Ce soir, j'ai la chance de recevoir un ami de longue date de Michael Idiokita. Michael Idiokita, qui est d'origine libérienne, d'origine africaine, qui a grandi au Libéria avant d'être sorti aux États-Unis et qui a continué sa carrière footballistique de high school jusqu'au collège et qui a vraiment représenté l'Afrique au niveau de DC. C'est sur Michael que nous avons le plaisir ce soir de vous avoir dans notre studio sur Afrique Today. Michael.
Yes.
Nice to have you in émission Équipe du Dimanche, who you can see us on the Afrique Today every Sunday. We show this, and it's my pleasure to have you so we can talk about soccer.
Yes.
And
yes.
It's something you like, something I like.
Yes. Thanks for having me. Thank
you so much. Thank you so much. My question gonna be, who's Michael Idiokita?
You said who is?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a lot of things, of course. As it pertains to football, I've been a player for 30 plus years. But I've also been active as a coach, a trainer, director, a supporter of the sport for 20 plus years, and I really got when I used to coach a lot of teams and a lot of programs before I became a parent, but then when I became a parent, then it became everyone expected because of me being a player, everyone expected my child, to play. So I didn't want to put pressure on him. So I actually stopped coaching in his early years because I didn't want to have any kind of pressure on him. But then he liked the sport and he wanted to play, and so then I got back involved into coaching. So I just love the game. The game is, I'm a student of the game. I've studied the game, my entire life. I'm constantly learning, finding better ways to train the game, share the game, but also expose the game, the beautiful game to to the world. And so that's really what I am.
Michael, it was a pleasure because I remember it been like almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, we started playing in Cosmos League,
Yes.
and Wheaton.
Yes.
And I also that time begin building something.
Yeah.
And we met with your team, come from DC.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We see so many kids, and I believe my son will have your son's age. But that time we see those kids growing up and about what we achieve. And I'm so very proud of what you'll be doing around DC Metropolitan over there.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so, in the way we met, I started in DC at Washington Soccer Club, which is one of the, the oldest clubs in the DC area. And then from there, I founded an academy, Washington Youth Soccer Academy. And the focus, the reason we started the academy, and then that's when we started playing, was really because what I noticed was there wasn't a lot of high quality training programs that didn't cost a lot, right? And so for the community, we really got together and decided to put a development program together that can provide great training, great education of the game to youngsters without charging them an arm and a leg. And so that's how we started Washington Youth Soccer Academy, and then that has evolved into what we have now, which is DC 11. the DC-11 project, and the idea behind the DC-11 project is that the focus on the game is our focus is on building skill mastery and game IQ, and so our goal is to develop players that can compete internationally with any of the any other international programs. Really all the kids that we develop by 14, 15, they should be at trials at all the big clubs in Europe, because that's where they can really test themselves and push forward. Our concern is not so much the club status in DC or what we do at some tournament here, because we're really, I mean, this, we're really building players that can compete anywhere. You drop them with a ball and
they start playing.
You get busy, so that's
Exactly.
really the goal. Yeah.
Michael, how can we recognize your organization?
You said, how can you recognize it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course,
by the work you guys have been doing, because today we realize it's not development in USA soccer, but I believe you guys go back and reflect on the development. How can we recognize your work through that organization?
Yeah. I mean, so like you said, what we've always focused on is a lot. What you find is like a lot of programs say they do development, but then when you actually you go to practice, or you really start even talking to the leadership in the program, that you understand, no, this is not development. This is just it's a money grab, or it's it's just something else, right? It's not development. So we really our focus at practice, or even the games we play. That's how we even met, was in it's a small league, but it's a league full of talent from everywhere in the world, right? So there's the Ivorian team, the Ghanaian team, the Brazilian team, the Panamanian team, the Jamaican team. It's where kids that really play the game and their parents really play the game. That's where it is. We're not, we could care less about doing some big one of the the big travel clubs, CDPL, PDL, any of those things. And so that's always been our focus, is to make sure that kids can really express themselves with the ball in any kind of way, right? The ball drops in them, and I mean, we've seen this. That's one of the reasons why those days were so great, with those younger guys doing things with the ball that you're just like, wow.
Believe me, I took that project, I took that concept, and I went to two mega meeting, and then I had to expose something about soccer.
Yeah.
And the one, it was in the DC with the Soccer Foundation.
Yeah.
And then I told them, say, the way we play in Africa, that's what we play in Wheaton.
Yes.
The development begin on the small side of the game.
Yes.
And the people, they say, why? I say, no. Why are you going to see the kid to have a full confidence to mastering a ball in a small dimension, then you want to put on the full field of game?
Yes. It's crazy.
It's great.
It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, so like, we start with, just skill development, building a game IQ. We go to, when they do start playing, we focus on small-sided, so it's really small. It even starts at 3v3, then go 4v4, 5v5, 6v6, 7v7. And then, at that stage is where we start putting in the, a tactical understanding of the game, right? So that they can, express themselves, but also, start seeing the entire field and understanding positioning and where to move. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that we realize that, even right now, one of the things we've implemented is that for the older, like the U13, is we don't do league games because at that age, all the leagues are the 11v11 or whatever it is. So what we do is we do what we call a training and tournament model. which is similar, is actually interesting, but it's similar to what a lot of the European clubs and, even the, some of the clubs in Latin America do, which is they focus on training, and even on the weekends, they use an extended time to train, and then they go to, tournaments maybe every month or every 2 months or whatever it is, and test out what they've been training.
What is the outcome?
Yeah, exactly, right. So that's that's the model, and the reality is also, one of the things we realize that is also difficult in this environment. This is why the work that I always say, what small academies or folks that are really focusing on development, I always try to acknowledge them, because it's a difficult place to be, because even the parents don't really see, or because most of the parents here that are not from the game, they don't understand the value of development. They think the fact that their kid is a certain age and they can run and kick the ball hard and score, that's all it is. But then what happens is that once that kid hits 15, 16, they can't compete with anybody else in the world, because everybody else is strong and fast as well. And so they don't have the skill, the technical skill, or the tactical understanding of the game. And so, so we try to, we definitely work with I always say, any program that's focusing on youth development, and actually youth development, is a partner of ours. Like, we don't even have to have a formal partnership, but we're a partner, because we're literally on the same page and trying to get kids to understand.
Believe me, as an African who played the game in Europe and before, when you come to our practice, that's what we do. That's what we teach.
Yep.
We start in the in the 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, and they just gradually express their own self. Yep. You don't screaming, you don't do anything. The kid just express himself by the technical aspect, the ball mastering aspect, and then the structure. We just put the structure, and then they go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the big things is the lack of freedom and creativity in players in the West, in America. And this is one of the reasons, like, I'm actually hopeful, because I'm starting to see a lot of academies, right, that actually is focusing on development, and in that environment, and what we do as well is that we cultivate an environment that allows the kid to express themselves, and and a big part of the expression is getting creative, right? And what you find is, like, when we play, even every now and then we'll scrimmage one of the big, the so-called elite clubs, or even the MLS academy, and they they can follow direction. Right, like those academies, they can follow direction. Like, they can say, okay, do this. But when they get in a situation where the guy's not doing what they expect him to do, they completely, like, they have no idea what to do. Right, and also the game, the way they play, is not even fun to look at. Like you wouldn't even no one would really
throw stereotype.
Yeah. I mean, it's just boring. Like, it's not. And so one of the things we on all our kids is that everyone is different, right? Everyone, like, not everyone's gonna be like Neymar or Messi or whatever. Like, even those two, there's completely different. One's more flair, right? Like, Neymar is more dancey, etc. And then Messi just keeps the ball. He, like, great understanding of the game, etc. And so the point, though, is that creativity and ingenuity should be in your game, right? You shouldn't be like a robot. It shouldn't be robotic, where you get the ball, boom, you kick it up, and then you chase it. And so so we always try to make sure that all our kids, definitely get the opportunity, and there's a huge focus on them expressing themselves and just loving the game. And once they develop that passion, then they, the ideas can just take it, anywhere they want to take it.
Very nice. Oui, monsieur, madame, nous sommes ce soir, notre invité, vraiment Michael Diokita, qui est dans nos studios ce soir. C'est pour parler de développement de football aux États-Unis. C'est pour parler de tout ce qui anime le concept de football dans notre localité ici, dans le DC et DMV. Et ce soir, nous avons la chance de l'avoir et nous voulons vraiment nous délivrer de toutes ces capacités, de tout ce qu'ils font dans l'organisation. Et c'est pour cela que nous avons Michael ce soir dans notre studio pour parler du football, rien que du football. Michael, the public want to know how long DC11 projects, Soccer Academy exists.
Yeah. So so DC11 is the genesis of it actually is so from Washington Soccer Club, where we started, we noticed that because we were only going up to 11, right? So to U12, we noticed that a lot of the kids would end up leaving, even a little earlier than that, to go to one of the big clubs, right? And and the big clubs also started, they would literally come to our practice and just to scout, like to pull kids, right? Tell them, we're going to give you a great scholarship and great this. Everyone knows the story. Everyone knows it, right? And so, but then this is what the reason. So this is what happened. So then kids would go to a big club, but then after a year at the big club, or not after a year, after a season at the big club, the parents would constantly be calling me and the other coaches to train to work on the development with the kids, right? and so we're just but at first it was just one or two, but then it really became, it was literally everybody, because the issue, and I didn't realize this at first, but at the bigger clubs, they really don't have infrastructure to focus on development, right? It's just winning. Yeah, it's and the reason is they just have to win because the parents feel like they're paying so much, and so that's why I always say I can't even blame some of those coaches, because if the coach doesn't win and give up the parents a trophy, the parent is going to go to another big club, right? And then the coach is going to lose their team or lose their job, etc.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so that's how it started. And so then we really myself. So it actually started with WYSA and Juan, and because the same thing was happening to them. So where the kid would leave, and then the parent would constantly keep calling back for training. So we said, we should have an older program so that the younger guys and girls from WISA and Juwan's can filter into this older, to DC11, to an older program. And so that's how we started DC11, and it's been 2 years. So we started with the first group. So it's been 2 years. We're going into our second year, and it's going great. It's the growth in these kids is really amazing, because especially that age between 11 and 13, they not only do they physically grow, but even their understanding of the game, really starts to expand.
Concepts of the game.
Yeah. It really starts to expand. And so we've been this is our second year for DC11. We say it all the time, and it's a joke, but we always say, from this group, this current group, we want them to be the first team to have seven members of this group was going to be on the USA team that wins the World Cup.
Wonderful.
That's what we always say. And
it will happen. It will happen.
Yeah. Seven. That's the number. Because the way I look at it, if it's like one or two, then but by having such a large number, from this group, then it shows that development is really the key, right? And starting early development. And so I mean that's the goal. And of course, all those guys will obviously be international players and on the big stage. But really, the goal is that this continues to grow. We want to encourage the focus on development in youth sports. For me and for you as well. I know one of the things that is hopeful is that we're starting to see more, more development focused programs, right? That are not just saying, they're development, but they actually are doing the work. They're doing real development, and so yeah, so it's a good thing.
That's great. Michael, and I know there's something bother you, something bother me, and we know we are black in this country, and
Yes.
it takes us a time to realize. So we need to get together to win or to get market or to do a lot of stuff on our own
Yes.
because we see we being the one who do the dirty job coaching those kids, but at the end of the day, we not sitting down the table who they make a decision. We're
Yes.
not getting the gain. We're not making the money.
Yeah.
But and how can we talk about the black coaches in the DMV?
Yeah.
I know you have a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, the thing is, like you just said, we all know the folks on the ground that's doing the work, right? So like, there are a lot of black coaches, you know, uh, especially guys and girls from the continent, from Africa, from the Caribbean, that are spread out, and then in the DMV is even more so, right? It's a concentration of of Africans and Caribbeans, and what you find is that if you go to any club, even the big clubs, the best development coaches
It's
are going to
African
be
or Caribbean.
yes, are going to be African or Caribbean. And then, but what happens though is that, but they never get the shine, or so they and this is what even crazier. They literally have a process where, say, if I'm at a big club, I would be at the development coach, and then once I get these kids really good, then they go to this other coach, you know, the and then that coach takes the credit for these kids being good, etc., and them winning and all this
Exactly.
kind of stuff. And then I just get stuck. And that coach becomes the coaching director, and they do all the media, and they get all the praise and all those kind of things. And so so that's one aspect. And then the other aspect is that a lot of the coaches and have we all, like, if you play the game or you coach or whatever, you've experienced firsthand racism, right? And so there's a lot, and so folks talk about their experiences with racism and issues and those kind of things. And so what my focus has always been is to, instead of just complaining about an issue, is to actually come up with solutions and and action to fix the solution, right? To fix the issue. And so one of the big things I think is that for black coaches, black players, and the entire gamut, is having institutions, organizations, programs, leagues, everything you can think of, right? Like that are owned and ran by
Black people.
yeah, by them, right? By us, so that one of the big things, even in one of the groups we're in, is that all these, like, there's a bunch of guys that are currently coaching at a lot of the bigger clubs, and they're constantly complaining about issues of racism, someone calling them a name, someone slighting, all this kind of stuff. And the reality is, I think if if you need someone, if you're asking someone to make a change, they have the power to decide if they're going to change or not, right?
Yeah.
But if you make the change, whatever the change is, like, if you, yeah,
follow.
yeah, I mean, it's just it's just one of those things, right? So one of the things I always talk to coaches about is that if you're not happy in your situation, right? Because there are programs that folks are happy in the situation, but if you're not happy in your situation, you have a couple of options. You can either start your own, program, or there are a lot of great programs here that are ran by people that look like you, and people who have not just that they look like you, but they also their ideas of development is the same as yours, right? They're actually focused on development. So you can join forces with them, right? Instead of being a coach at one of these other clubs, be a coach at their program and build that program up, right? Bring the kids that you're currently coaching and bring them into that program and and grow that program and expand it, etc. So I mean, I think it's something, again, a lot of stuff takes time, right? Because I think for a lot of people, change is not as easy as it should be, right? So
Exactly.
even though the situation is not good or comfortable or whatever it is, they still hesitant to change, right? They will come up with every kind of reason why this is not going to work, and all these other things. And so, one of the things I keep saying is like we just have to we have to keep pushing forward. We also have to. One of the things I'm completely sure of is that people respond to success. So
Exactly.
with that said, like if you or like I said, DC 11 goal is to have seven players on the the national team, the U.S. national team that wins the championship, right? So imagine when that happens, we won't even have to have a conversation.
Oh
Like
no, no.
everybody would want to join DC 11. That like they were all
Exactly.
like because all the kids at the other clubs will be coming there because all the parents will say, well, how do these guys manage to get
Let us see the magic. Let us go see
exact
the magic.
yes. And so then so I it's one of the things that I'm definitely sure of, and this is why that's why I'm always supportive of like folks that are focusing on development, like
Yeah.
whatever it is, like if you're running a tournament, um, I want it to be successful, right? If you're running a league, I want it to be successful. If you're running a camp, I want it to be successful. And I think developing that mindset, and when folks, so if you have a successful camp or you have a successful whatever it is, like even one of the things we were talking about before the interview was the international trial programs, right?
Yeah.
So like imagine if you run one of these international trial programs where you get maybe 10 or 15 kids go to one of these international clubs, and then the club signs, 7 of them get signed or 8 of them get signed, right, out of 10. Just that experience, and then that information gets spread around the community.
Your life is changed.
All of a sudden, the same guys and girls that weren't, trying to talk to you about joining
Yeah.
your program, all of a sudden they'll be interested. They'll be
Exactly.
interested in wanting to coach at your program because they can then say, their kid is going to a certain place. So yeah,
Michael, we would like to talk about what is the aspect of youth development is on the right track in the USA.
yeah. So the thing I think is on the right track is what I said earlier is that they're starting to be a lot more smaller academies that are really focusing on development, right? So the days of uh, travel, just for the namesake, right? You're on a travel team or you're on a travel program or whatever it is. Those days are gone. So now I think you're having a lot of smaller programs where you have essentially foreigners, people who really know the game
Who play the
and really
game?
understand the game. Um, they're the ones teaching the game to to kids that are here, and I think that's really the change, right? Because I always say, like, no matter how many certificates or license or whatever you can get,
That's
if
it.
you don't know the game in a nuanced and instinctual kind of way. And the reason people from, say, Europe or Africa or the Caribbean know the game is because it's in every aspect of our lives, right?
Exactly.
Like if you're back home, even your grandmother knows the game. Do you understand what I mean? Like everyone knows the game. Like it's every aspect of our lives, and so before we can walk, we know what the ball is. Like we know all the rules, we know the teams, we know all the history, etc. And then if we start playing, so we really understand it, right? It's not something we can just go and get a textbook and read and that kind of stuff. And so I always say, if you want your kid to get truly developed is, and if you're in the U.S., find yourself a foreigner. Find yourself a foreigner and have them train your child. That's really what it is. And so I'm happy that I see, all over the country, like in California, Atlanta, LA, New York, of course, the DMV area. There's just a large crop of small academies that's focusing on development.
And to closing our this show, Michael, we're so happy to have you. And then my last question is going to go to you. How can we deal with the pay-to-play? Who's killing our community? Like a kid on your community, kid in my community, we know parents don't have a lot, but they know the game. How can we bring the solution to that? It will be like my last question for you.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things we can do, right? I think, of course, for some of the programs that are, like, say, nonprofits, you can apply for grants. You can, fundraise to be able to provide, the training programs for especially for families that can't afford, the high cost. But I also think the other part of it is that the programs, themselves, can lessen the cost if, and what, for me, one of the things, one of our biggest expenses is facilities, right? Space. I mean, I think you and I even had this conversation. And so, one of the things I think could really move the needle is if, say, the MLS really dedicated a small sum of money to build a lot of facilities throughout, the urban area, even in the suburbs, right? And it really doesn't take, these are facilities that are similar to, the facilities we have back home or in Europe. They can be small fields, they can be concrete pavements, just having a lot of facilities would open up the ability to have a lot more programs use those facilities. Because what happens now is, like, we pay upwards of $200 to $300 an hour to have training sessions. Right. So it costs, like, just the raw cost is a lot. And so if you can have access to, a facility that, you don't have to pay, or maybe it's $20 or, something that's reasonable, it would really, I think it would really change the game, because
I believe the rental is killing us, like a killing yours. Sur ce, Madame, Monsieur, nous sommes arrivés à la fin de cette émission. L'équipe du dimanche présentée par Coach Fofo sur Afrique Today tous les dimanches à partir de 4h30. Nous avons la chance de recevoir Malik Idiokotaou qui est venu ce soir nous parler de tous les problèmes qu'ils racontent, aussi le programme de développement qu'ils ont à DC, 11 Projects à DC. Vraiment, ça a été un grand plaisir. Michael, it's an honor and pleasure to have you. I believe we have a lot to talk, and I'll have a way to come to bring you more next time, so we can talk. Because it's very well done when you see a passionate people like you for so many years. We've been talking. It's great to continue talking about the soccer. How can we build a better future for our kids who know the game, who wanted to be the best in the tomorrow? But thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. Thanks a lot, Toba. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.